Whatever the case may be, enduring a loss is never an easy thing to do. So for
kick in the head. Oh man, I'm so disappointed.
the reality of sport is that there are always winners and losers, and suffering a defeat in MMA can be incredibly difficult for a fighter to endure.
I think I'd just rather not talk about that right now.
In some cases, a loss can bring out the best in a fighter, and in others, it can be the start of a career downfall. Whatever the case may be, enduring a loss is never an easy thing to do. So for this video, we'll be taking a look at some of the most emotional and heartbreaking losses in MMA. As always, if you guys enjoy this video, then please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Now, without further ado, and ranked in no particular order, here's a list of 10 devastating losses in MMA. Number 10. Jose Aldo vs Conor McGregor. When the former featherweight kingpin Jose Aldo was set to face off against Conor McGregor in 2015, I don't think anyone knew exactly what we were in for, least of all Jose Aldo. In the build-up to the fight, Conor McGregor trash-talked Aldo to no end, and it was clear each altercation was visibly chipping away at him. By the time the fight rolled around, it seemed the mind games had taken its toll on Aldo, who looked very tense before the fight. And then, all of a sudden, Aldo's worst nightmare came true, when in just 13 seconds, he was knocked out cold and the fight was over. Just like that, Aldo had lost his title in the worst way imaginable. For Aldo, this did a number on him psychologically, as he appeared very emotional both in his Octagon interview, as well as in his locker room.
Honestly, I feel for Jose. He's a phenomenal champion. He was a phenomenal champion. We deserve to go a little bit longer.
Number 9. Alexander Gustafsson vs Anthony Johnson. In January of 2015, Alexander Gustafsson was set to fight Anthony Johnson in the main event of UFC on Fox 14. Given that the fight was taking place in Alex's home country of Sweden, there was an added pressure for him to win the fight. But much to his dismay, Alex not only lost the fight, but he was brutally knocked out in the first round. It goes without saying that he was devastated to lose in front of his home crowd. But Johnson kept it classy, as he offered up some kind words for the Swede in his post-fight speech.
Alex did everything that I thought he was going to do. He's an amazing athlete. I feel bad just because he's crying, you know what I mean? I'm an emotional guy, so I feel his pain.
Number 8. Daniel Cormier vs John Jones 2. It's no secret that John Jones and Daniel Cormier don't really like each other. And after their first encounter back at UFC 182, the bad blood hadn't boiled over one bit when Jones defeated Daniel Cormier by decision to defend his title. Fast forward 2.5 years, and they were rescheduled to fight in the main event of UFC 214, with Cormier now acting as the division champion. Unfortunately, the fight ended horribly for Cormier, when halfway through round 3, Daniel suffered a brutal knockout loss to John Jones, losing his title in the process. It was a heartbreaking defeat for Daniel, who couldn't keep his emotions contained during his post-fight interview.
I thought the fight was going well. I don't even know what happened. It's like I got kicked in the head. Oh man, I'm so disappointed.
However, things took an unusual turn when Daniel Cormier was reinstated as the light heavyweight champion, following John Jones testing positive for steroids. Number 7. Ronda Rousey vs Holm. In 2015, Ronda Rousey was widely regarded as the greatest female fighter on the planet. As the women's bantamweight champion, she had amassed 6 title defenses, running through all of her previous opponents. So when Holm was next in line to challenge Rousey, no one expected what would come next. To the surprise of everyone, Holm completely outclassed Rousey, finishing her with a vicious head kick knockout in the second round. Ronda Rousey unsurprisingly took the loss very badly, and could be seen on Ellen discussing her thoughts of suicide as a result of the loss.
Literally sitting there and like thinking about killing myself, and that exact second I'm like, I'm nothing. I'm like, what do I do anymore? and no one gives a shit about me anymore without this.
And quite frankly, she has never been the same since. Number 6. BJ Penn vs Frankie Edgar 3. To be honest, all of BJ Penn's losses since 2011 have been heartbreaking. But one of the most notable occurred after his third loss to Frankie Edgar in 2014. After suffering 2 back-to-back losses at the hands of Nick Diaz and Rory McDonald, BJ Penn contemplated retiring from MMA altogether. But after a brief absence, he decided to return in 2014 to face his former rival Frankie Edgar in the Ultimate Fighter 19 finale. Unfortunately, things didn't go Penn's way, as he lost the fight by TKO in the 3rd round. Following the loss, he formally announced his retirement once again in an emotional interview.
Well, Frankie did a great job. I shouldn't have came back. I shouldn't have been in the ring tonight. Yep, of course, Dana said it was over, and I gotta agree with him at this point.
Number 5. Dustin Poirier vs Khabib Nurmagomedov. The most recent entry on this list is Dustin Poirier's loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Despite a couple of setback losses to Conor McGregor and Michael Johnson, Poirier had managed to climb his way up the lightweight ladder to finally earn his shot at Khabib at UFC 242. Unfortunately, Khabib's wrestling and pressure proved too much for Poirier, and by round 3, Khabib submitted Poirier with a rear naked choke. The loss was a brutal defeat for Poirier, who had been chasing this dream for his entire MMA career.
I was just so prepared, and now I gotta wake up and look myself in the mirror every morning with this result.
Of course, there is no shame whatsoever in losing to someone like Khabib, so in the meantime, he should keep his head held high. Number 4. Conor McGregor vs Nate Diaz. In 2016, Conor McGregor seemed to be on top of the world as he was quickly becoming the UFC's biggest star. At the time, he was undefeated in the UFC and had just defeated Jose Aldo in 13 seconds to become the new featherweight champion. So, when he faced off against Nate Diaz at UFC 196, McGregor came into the fight with an extra level of confidence. Unfortunately for the Irishman, Nate Diaz proved to be much tougher than he anticipated. Despite a solid first round, things took a turn for the worse in the second, when Diaz submitted McGregor with a rear naked choke. It was a huge blow for Conor McGregor, who was visibly heartbroken following the fight.
You know, it stings real bad, but this is the fight business. I've been on the end of many defeats in my life, and I've rose back, so I will not shy away from it. I will not make excuses for it. I will assess it and come back.
Number 3. Junior Dos Santos vs Cain Velasquez. In 2011, Junior Dos Santos shocked the world when he became the first man in history to defeat Cain Velasquez, finishing him by knockout in round 1 to become the new heavyweight champion. So, when Cain earned his rematch with Dos Santos in 2012, he didn't let the opportunity go to waste. Cain dominated Junior for 5 brutal rounds, as he put on one of the most lopsided performances ever seen. In the end, Dos Santos looked almost unrecognisable as a result of the damage sustained. It was no doubt a great victory for Cain, but an equally hard loss for Dos Santos.
His game is very effective, and tonight he was better than me.
Number 2. Anderson Silva vs Chris Weidman. By the time Anderson Silva was set to face off against Chris Weidman in July of 2013, he was already being hailed as the greatest fighter of all time. So, when Weidman defeated Silva by knockout at UFC 162, he shook up the whole MMA world. 6 months later, a rematch was scheduled between the pair, with Silva eagerly looking for redemption. Unfortunately, not only did he lose the fight once again, but he suffered one of the worst injuries in the sport's history. This came as a result of Chris Weidman checking one of Silva's kicks, which forced his leg to completely break upon impact. It was both a shocking and devastating end to the fight. Number 1. Frankie Edgar vs Max Holloway. For years, the former lightweight champ Frankie Edgar had made it his mission to also become a champion of the featherweight division. But after 2 losses to Jose Aldo, his chances of capturing the title started to close. After a couple of setbacks, he eventually worked his way up to challenge Max Holloway in what many people considered to be his final chance at obtaining featherweight gold. He fought a tough fight against Max, but ultimately he came up short, as he lost the fight by decision. This loss in particular was especially challenging for Frankie to accept, considering he had spent the best part of 6 years trying to seize the belt, and in the post-fight interview, he expressed his devastation.
I got my family here, my kid here. It's just tough, you know? I don't know, man. I need to go back to the drawing board and regroup. I'm not done.
As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, then please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Apart from that, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.